Coming up, Spencer, we'll have him back in about 40 minutes to play a couple more tunes and talk a little bit more. But next we turn to Steve. So I'm a solo musician, and I met Steve at the first gig I did. Yes, really? Yes, it was at a coffee shop up on U Street in D.C., and we had the same amp. And I was scared out of my mind. And Steve was just a super nice guy, and he made me feel really welcome. And he played a cool slide guitar and some other stuff, and it was great. So he's got this cool band called Cryptic Matter, and well, let me have him tell you about it. So here we go. Without further ado, here's the Steve Hung interview. I interviewed him over Skype, so it sounds like he's calling in. He kind of is digitally on WDCE 90.1 FM Richmond. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined remotely by my guest today, Mr. Steve Hung from Cryptic Matter, over his Skype call because technology is amazing. How's it going, Steve?
Good.
Excellent. Well, thanks for taking the time out of your busy rock star schedule to talk to all the good people on the air. And so tell me about this project you got going at the Cryptic Matter. How do you describe the band?
Well, I mean, the funny thing is that each member has different musical influences, and we all listen to different things and stuff, but somehow we're able to put it all together and stuff. I guess overall, we would consider it rock and roll, but there are certainly elements of metal, funk in it there too. And
nice. I've seen you call it online. Let me make sure this is working here. I've seen you call it exotic groove metal.
Yeah.
I love that phrase. How did you come up with that?
Well, I mean, it wasn't anything premeditated. It was just one of those things that kind of happened because our drummer, Justin, he's really into kind of like funk-influenced rock, kind of like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Daft Punk and that type of stuff. And I'm really an old-school metalhead. Like, I'm into Iron Maiden, Dio, old-school Metallica, like Yngwie Malmsteen, all that stuff. And so when I was jamming with my drummer, like on the first time we were trying to put this together, I was trying to figure out which we could both jam together, and then we discovered that that a lot of Middle Eastern music, that it contains a lot of the kind of like the belly dancing beats, drum beats that are kind of similar to funk music, yet a lot of Arabic and Middle Eastern music, they use a lot of these weird, dark minor scales that are similar to the harmonic minor scales that are used in 80s metal and stuff. And so, like, Middle Eastern music is a way for like both funk and metal to exist in the same medium. So that's something we've been kind of exploring lately and trying to pioneer.
Well, that's fascinating. So funk and metal existing in the same genre, which is sort of this is a very old style, not funk and metal, the Middle Eastern grooves. That's some ancient music that you're playing there, and playing it in a modern format and putting the modern spin on it, and using it to fuse the things. Well, that's really neat. Well, the track we're going to hear, I believe it's called Tragedy Guide, right?
Yes.
That's sort of that has a very, very kind of exotic flavor to it. What's the backstory with that song there?
Okay. Well, do you know the Indian song that Jay-Z kind of redid and made popular? It goes da 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 da.
I can't say that I am familiar with it, but
hold on. This is the internet. Let me see if I can pop it up on YouTube.
Absolutely. Just make sure he doesn't say anything bad, because we've got all the FCC rules here. Of course, since we're recording this, I could just bleep it out.
Wait, hold on.
Sure.
I'm gonna think of yeah.
So he's pulling it up. The miracles of modern technology.
Yes. While the video's loading, buy the new Cryptic Matter CD.
Right. So we got the CD. Now, where can people hear some of this stuff on their own? Where can people reach out?
iTunes, Google Play, Bandcamp. Can you hear it?
Oh, yes.
heard this song before, right?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Like they play this in a lot of nightclubs and stuff.
That's right. Okay, right. So we're getting some of these.
Yeah, you can tell me to pause it whenever you want.
Right. Okay, yeah, that's good. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, anyways, this type of music, it's called Bhangra, which was invented by the teenage youth like living in the UK. And then Bhangra was only known around the UK and India and Pakistan. And what Jay-Z did was he took that song, kind of sampled it and rapped over it, and it became the major top 40 hit in the US, and it's played a lot in like a lot of the nightclubs. So like I kind of stole Jay-Z's idea. I was like, well, if Jay-Z took this like Indian Bhangra music and kind of hip hop-tized it, and like why don't I do the same thing, like except do it with like rock and roll?
I love it. That's a great idea. That's great. Well, we'll take a listen to this. So you're listening to my interview with Steve Hung, guitarist for Cryptic Matter. What's the Facebook? How can people get in touch while they're listening to this track?
Facebook.com/Cryptic Matter. We're also on Soundcloud, Bandcamp, iTunes, Google Play. I think we're on Amazon.com too. Just type Cryptic Matter.
Cryptic Matter, and you'll get it. We'll be right back. You're listening to Steve Hung from Cryptic Matter on WDCE 90.1 FM. Check it out. Here's Tragedy Guy.
The first time wasn't your fault. No way that it could go wrong. Your future's shining so bright. You'll have them dead to rights. Feeling a bit divided. It's time that you decided. You think there's something missing. I don't think you've been listening. And when you're caught in the divide, I'll be
for a Skype interview here. So, Steve, thanks again for coming by. And for those of you just tuning in, check him out, facebook.com/Cryptic Matter. Is that what it is there?
That's correct.
That's correct. And you said this album dropped in July, so people can get the links to your album on the Facebook page.
It already dropped this past July.
It has dropped, right.
Yeah.
It has dropped. I know. I need to read a grammar book. I think that would be beneficial. And he's holding it up right now. I wish you guys could see it. It's awesome. It's awesome. Got to get it. So, how do you come up with the name Cryptic Matter? That's an interesting name there.
Well, I don't know. I think it's because it's all sorts of stuff. You know, if you listen to the album, there's songs like Race Car Driver. That's pretty much a standard pop punk tune. There's a lot of other even though it's rock, straight up rock music, there's a lot of kind of experimental and weird elements we stick in the music and stuff. And so we're trying to think of the best way to describe our music. So we came up with Cryptic Matter. But usually as a band, for song names or band names or whatever, we went through this huge list of rejected names.
You know, one of the things I've been getting into vinyl records a lot, and so seeing the music from the 60s, or the different band names as the eras go on. So the 50s and 60s, everything was the Supremes, right? The Chiffons, the Clovers, the Four Tops, so I'm I want to make a vintage band called the. I mean, I guess the Killers, they're kind of doing that. But and then you have the artist names, and then you have the interesting names now. So apparently there's a band name generator website. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't. I have heard the one with what is your blues name? Have you heard of that one?
No. I got to check that out.
No, but pretty much you type in your three initials, your first initial, your middle initial, and your last initial, right? And then each letter corresponds to something in the database, and then it might if you type in J whatever urban whatever, it might come out as One-Eyed Jack Johnson or
nice.
Burning Park or whatever.
Nice, right, to get that authentic vibe. You know what? Now that you mention it, right, I have
like Cigar Box Blues, so we need to come up with a blues name for you.
Right, like Smoky Lung Urban or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't even smoke, but right. I know. Well, at least that's great. You didn't need a band name generator or a blues name generator. You just came up with a cool name. So, and you mentioned before that I'm gonna have to look into this blues thing though. You mentioned before that the different members come, with different musical backgrounds. So what are some of your musical backgrounds, Steve? I mean, I know we've known each other for a while. We've jammed, a long time. But just for the listeners who are meeting you for the very first time, what are some of your musical influences, both guitar and otherwise?
Oh, you mean me personally?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just the stereotypical self-absorbed lead guitarist. I like a lot of the shredder stuff, and of course I like a lot of the more soulful lead guitarists like Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and Gary Moore. But I like Joe Satriani, Yngwie, stuff like that, Randy Rhoads, and then going back to the whole exotic groove metal concept. If you think about the beginning of rock and roll throughout the 60s and 70s, those mainly blues-based, right?
Right.
And then how guitar evolved in the 80s is you had players like Randy Rhoads and Yngwie Malmsteen, and they kind of introduced classical themes and classical elements into heavy metal guitar. And then I think ever since 80s, lead guitar work has been kind of at a standstill or whatever. So I've been what's really interesting about incorporating exotic influences is Marty Freeman did this too in Richie Blackmore, but you're again taking that lead guitar work and trying to step it up into the next level. Yeah.
That's right. Well, that's a very cool idea about bringing it into the next level. I was just talking to somebody about that earlier, saying how the electric guitar is still a very young instrument compared to, say, the violin or something like that. And so taking it to the next level, that's a great idea. Very cool. Well, so you guys take this out and you take it out and play around, right?
Yeah, we play out.
Nice. How is it usually received?
I mean, pretty well. Well, I mean, you know, like you play around this area too. So, like, usually when we do shows, it's just us and 20 of our friends, and then so usually our friends are pretty nice. They like the stuff, and if they don't, we usually kick them out of the show.
You're not a real friend. Get out of here. Yeah, that's what I hate. You know, having 20 friends there, that is actually very well received. You know, yeah, we've done shows together. You know how it goes. Remember the first time we met was at that little coffee shop, the One For You cafe, which was on 14. Well, 14
yeah,
you?
I remember that, and you were covering a lot of Hendrix, and then I was like, I like this guy.
It's like, yeah, I was so nervous. Man, that was my first gig as a solo guitarist, and then I saw Steve had the same amp. I'm like, oh, he's my friend. He's my friend. So it was cool. So, well, that's great. So, again, for those of you just tuning in, you're listening to Steve Hung, our conversation. He's the lead guitarist for exotic groove metal band Cryptic Matter. Check them out, facebook.com/Cryptic Matter. So, Steve, speaking for some of your other bandmates, what are some of their influences? Any particular favorites? You mentioned your drummer's really into sort of a funky, like Red Hot Chili Peppers stuff.
Yeah. The drummer's really into punk rock, like Daft Punk, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Public Enemy. Adam, the bassist, he's actually in a lot of like 90s alternative, like Stone Temple Pilots and Nirvana. And our singer Devin, he's into a lot of like more modern, up to date bands, kind of like Coheed and Cambria. But he's also in the thrice too. So some indie, some screamo, and we recently, like, this happened only like a month or two ago, but we recently added on a keyboard player. Nice. I'm not sure what she's into. The like her keyboard playing is really mellow and stuff. So
wonderful. Keyboard's great. Well, I really need to come see you guys at a show. This sounds really cool. When's your next gig? Do you have one on the books?
No, not yet. We're kind of on hiatus for a while.
Gotcha. And well, the holidays coming up, everything gets real busy. But
yeah.
But well, let me know, and I'll let everybody know. I'll post it on the show page. Again, check out facebook.com/Cryptic Matter, so people can connect and hear your stuff, and check it out on iTunes and Bandcamp and Google Play and Amazon and all the major retailers. So, well, Steve, I like to ask this question of everybody. If you could make an album with 3 other musicians, putting together a super group, they don't have to be alive, because this is all hypothetical. Who would be on the album, and what kind of project would it be?
I don't know. That's a really hard one. Well, I mean, Jimi Hendrix definitely outsnatched him.
Absolutely.
For the other two, I don't know. That's something you'll have to think about. Definitely Hendrix.
Wouldn't it be amazing? I would just be.
His creative potential is just, And then even though he died off in the '60s, if you could just resurrect him, I'd wonder, like, listening to the music of today, how he'd absorb it and reinterpret that.
Yes, that is a really good.
Turning up the frame.
you never, 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 never crash. Guitar, guitar, racing side by side, pressure felt inside you, the fire in your eyes, battle to the metal, the rubber meets the road, passing by contenders, going for that goal. Race car driver, you're running down on time. Cross our finish line. The race car driver, a daredevil on the attack, yeah, yeah. You won the race, but you know that you're gonna be back.
This is Alice Cooper for RADD. There's a lot of things we have no control of in this world, but that's not the case with drunk driving. If you're going to drink, don't drive. Think ahead and choose a designated driver. Remember, music lives on, and so should you.
Yes, we all got a long way to go.
A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
So, that was Race Car Driver by Cryptic Matter, and Steve, guitar player here, is here to talk about it. So, Steve, what's the story with this song?
Well, I mean, there's really no story. It's just kind of like a fun, kind of like song just to get like people like energized and excited and stuff. You know, it's kind of like Highway Star by Deep Purple. There's really no deep meaning behind it. It was just like a fun like song to party to. And then the same thing with this one. The reason why I chose this one right next to Tragedy Guide is to show like all the band's diverse influences and stuff, and then it's just a straightforward pop punk catchy song.
Nice. It's like maybe like Sammy Hagar's, I Can't Drive 55. It's just it's a great driving song. It's like, hey, something like that.
And there's no deep meaning, but if you play the song backwards, there's satanic messages.
Of course, and that's the beauty of rock. It can just be fun, or it can have a message, depending on which way the turntable spins, right? Excellent. So what kind of gear are you using to get these guitar sounds here?
Well, actually, I'll be honest and upfront. I just play Ibanez S series guitar, but for my amp, I just use a kind of like just a cheap 100 watt solid state Marshall that I picked up used for like $150.
Well, man, hey, it sounds good, and who cares how much it costs? If it sounds good, it is good. That's great. Awesome. Well, it's got cool sounds, and so that's Cryptic Matter with Race Car Driver. Steve, thanks again for joining us, and everybody out there, please be sure to listen in to their music at facebook.com/Cryptic Matter. It's on iTunes. Just search Cryptic Matter on Amazon, Google Play, all the major retailers. Steve, you got any parting words for the listeners and fans of rock and roll out there?
It's raining. Stay dry and safe.
Here we go. It's darn good advice. See practical and musical. So anyways, Steve, thanks for coming by. We'll get you by the studio real soon. And everybody, thanks for listening. And hey, keep up the great work, Steve. Catch you around. See ya.